McGovern was seen as a very significant, very senior member, very trusted member of Daniel Kinahan's network.
Sean McGovern's from a very well-respected family.
He could have gone either direction.
I was absolutely appalled to see with the callous nature in which they spoke about giving someone a job to murder someone.
I think that there was a bloodlust at the time.
The US took this very seriously. If you are in any way engaged with organizations that we consider terrorist, then there is going to be very severe repercussions.
The MV Matthew was taken by force in a military operation in Irish waters. The largest drug seizure in the history of the state has been found on it.
The last 10 years have brought lots of bad news for one of Ireland's most feared criminal exports, the Kinahan gang.
Armed Gardaí from local and national units arriving at one of the 18 locations in Dublin.
Already weakened by feuding and a string of police successes across Europe, yesterday another nail in the coffin as leading gang figure 40-year-old Sean McGovern was jailed for 24 years for directing the attempted murder of James Mago Gately and the murder of Noel Kirwan, an innocent grandfather killed in the driveway of his home 3 days before Christmas 2016.
While families were at home celebrating and out buying presents for their children, Sean McGovern was planning the murder of my dad, a 62-year-old innocent man.
Sean McGovern's involvement in the Kinahan-Hutch feud placed him firmly in the sights of investigators at home in Ireland. But how did a man like Sean McGovern end up on the radar of organisations across the world that are dedicated to fighting organised crime, including here in Vienna?
He's involved in the transshipment and trade of massive amounts of cocaine and cash and all sorts of other illicit activities globally. Cocaine is a network-based business, right? It's like any other business. It's an international commodity market. The Kinahans are a major international criminal organisation. So that's how he ultimately comes onto the radar of international law enforcement and organisations such as ours.
McGovern seems an unlikely criminal. From a tight-knit working-class family, his father was a social worker, and McGovern himself was a talented soccer player.
So he came from a very stable family and he was living within the Crumlin-Drimnagh area. His father was very hard worker with the kind of local community groups and football in particular.
He played at schoolboy and senior level for Crumlin United and Cherry Orchard.
I spoke to one of his former coaches who had him as a young fella when he was playing football and said he was very unassuming, very reserved, very quiet and very well-mannered, and someone who was very well respected by his peer group, his friends and his teammates.
He's somebody who would have come to Garda attention in his early 20s, but only for very minor issues. He'd never any serious convictions.
He could have gone either direction. You know, he could have gone legitimate, but was very close childhood friends with Liam and David Byrne, who obviously came from criminal pedigree. Their father, the late James Jaws Byrne, would have been a passport forger and well known within all the major gangs.
This photo shows an apparently tight-knit group of friends. McGovern, David and Liam Byrne, their father Jemmy Jaws Byrne, and in the middle of them all, Daniel Kinahan.
McGovern became almost family, and he actually lived within what was almost a protected area, that they all had houses almost facing one another. He had bought a house in Kildare Road and he was in and out of the family home, the Byrne family home, all the time. He would have holidayed with them.
McGovern bought his house in Kildare Road in Crumlin for €155,000 and lived there with his long-term partner Anita Freeman and their young family. But this wasn't a typical story of a young couple starting out in family life. The house, according to a Garda investigation, was bought with the proceeds of crime.
Well, Sean McGovern's last record of employment was in 2014, and yet in 2015 he bought that property in Kildare Road, and just the following year he then spent over €250,000 revamping the property.
In 2011, on his child's birth cert, McGovern's occupation is given as car dealer. By 2013, he went into business and registered LS Active Car Sales. The other director was Liam Byrne. Despite its name, there was little sales activity at LS Active Car Sales.
It wasn't a legitimate business. That was essentially a front for money laundering activities on behalf of an organised crime group.
The earnings from organised crime being confiscated by the Criminal Assets Bureau. 31 luxury and high-end cars.
A High Court judgment in a case taken by the CAB against Sean McGovern and others referred to a review of 29 days of CCTV footage that showed little to no evidence of a car sales business being conducted at the premises, and described the business as a slush fund for McGovern and criminal associates. McGovern first came to public attention in 2016 when gunmen from the Hutch crime group masquerading as Gardaí sought to kill Kinahan gang members at a boxing weigh-in at Dublin's Regency Hotel. Seeking revenge for the Kinahan gang's killing of Gary Hutch, they murdered McGovern's best friend, David Byrne, Liam Byrne's brother, and they shot Sean McGovern in the leg.
During the incident, he didn't seek any help from the guards. He was very aggressive when people went to try and help him, and he suffered a leg wound that day and then was treated in hospital afterwards, so he could easily have been killed. So from that day onwards, from 2016 throughout 2017, his main goal was to seek revenge.
In a feud that would take 18 lives, McGovern showed himself to be a determined and ruthless soldier for the Kinahan gang.
I think it came from the fact that he lost his best friend, David Byrne, on that day.
So it was personal, but he's also ambitious, and he sees this as a way of going up the chain of command.
McGovern was deeply involved on the ground, personally carrying out surveillance on potential targets, sometimes in a van with the fake livery of a bogus electrical contractor. One of those targets was Noel Kirwan.
So Noel Kirwan was a man who was originally from the North Inner City, family man, well respected in his community, and certainly no involvement in crime in any form.
A 62-year-old grandfather would have known members of the Hutch family growing up, was very active in the 90s in the Concerned Parents Against Drugs, but in 2016 he was leading a normal life.
Mr. Kerwin, known by the nickname Duck Egg or Duck, was apparently targeted because he was seen with Gerry Hutch at the funeral of Hutch's murdered brother, Eddie.
Well, it seemed a little bit incomprehensible that he was picked out for murder because he was standing beside Gerry the monk Hutch at his brother's funeral. But that seems to be the only reason. I think that there was a bloodlust at the time.
Primetime has seen a series of messages between Sean McGovern, nicknamed Knife, and another Kinahan gang member discussing a plan to kill Noel Duck Kirwan. The misspelled messages sent 3 months before he was ambushed are chillingly casual about a plan to murder. In one message, McGovern writes, "Exactly who else, mate, that's not kamikaze?" "Not many, they're all kamikaze apart from Duck," the other man replies.
We believe that is a reference to other persons being too difficult to murder. Noel Kirwan, on the other hand, we believe the text messages suggested was a softer target. He wasn't under police surveillance in any form, so they saw it as somebody who they could target without fear of potential arrest.
The men also discussed who they would get to murder Mr. Kerwin, referring to a gunman known as Teeth. McGovern wrote, "I reckon put the teeth on the duck, get his confidence back. I'm sure Teeth be working very soon, mate, but I'll be saying only a defo setup, or someone sitting in a motor on their own. So no running into crowds or chasing up hills or roads," he added. And a half an hour later, another message from McGovern. "Give him the duck for confidence," he wrote, suggesting that Mr. Kerwin be used as a form of assassination practice.
He was like expendable. He was someone who they were willing to let an innocent granddad lose his life just so a Kinahan cartel hitman could get his confidence back.
It was an absolutely appalling thing to read, and it shows the callous nature of this organised crime group.
McGovern had been monitoring Noel Kirwan's car for weeks using a tracker which had been placed on the undercarriage.
A SIM card within the device communicates with the GPS system. Essentially, it notifies the GPS system where it is at particular moments in time.
On the day of the murder, Sean McGovern set the device to report details of Noel Kirwan's location every 30 seconds.
So effectively that meant that nearly in real time, the controller of the device could communicate with the persons who were waiting to murder Noel Kirwan where he was.
This image shows the location data that the tracker sent to Sean McGovern's computer. At 4:25 on December 22nd, 2016, Noel Kirwan drove from the Monto Cafe in Kimmage, where he'd had a family meal. He turned into Neilstown Road at 16:57, drives along St. Ronan's Avenue in Clondalkin at 17:01, arriving home to St. Ronan's Drive at 3 minutes and 16 seconds past 5.
As soon as he pulled into his driveway with his partner in his car, he was approached and 7 shots were discharged through the driver's window. Noel Kirwan was hit on a number of times by those shots, and unfortunately he died a short time later.
But the murderers of Noel Kirwan had left behind a key piece of evidence: the tracker that Sean McGovern had been using to monitor Mr. Kerwin's movements. It was a so-called wrapped tracker. It had no on-off switch. As long as it was charged, it sent GPS location signals.
We were able to track the movements of the tracking device from the time it left its supplier in France. It moved to a particular shop in Leeds in the UK that specialises in the sale of surveillance equipment. The device moved from that shop to Holyhead, where it was taken onto a ferry. The device arrived in Dublin on the evening of the 20th of October. The device then moved to another location in Crumlin that is associated with Sean McGovern on the 3rd of November. From there, it moved to yet another location in Sandyford, Beacon South Quarter. Sean McGovern was one of the persons who were using that safe house.
It showed a direct link between Sean McGovern, the tracking device that was used. It was a massive mistake on their part, and I do think it comes down to arrogance. I do think it comes down to the fact that they thought they were invincible.
Gardaí found the encrypted laptop that McGovern had been using to track Noel Kirwan at an apartment in Sandyford used by the Kinahan gang.
The laptop computer that was recovered was examined for forensic evidence. It was discovered that on the keyboard of the laptop, Sean McGovern's DNA was found. There was also a fingerprint of Sean McGovern found on the screen of the laptop.
It would be months before Gardaí discovered the laptop password, which turned out to be somewhat biographical. When I was young, I grew up rough 1990s Dublin. All one word. In April 2017, McGovern fled to Dubai, where Daniel Kinahan was based, a sign of his acceptance into the inner circle of the gang.
It's difficult to see exactly when the relationship between himself and Daniel cements, but certainly in the aftermath of the murder of Noel Duckhead Kerwin, he is welcomed to Dubai and helped settle there.
At the time, Dubai seemed not overly concerned when international criminals ran their businesses from the city. But globally, greater attention was being paid to the Kinahan gang, including by the Vienna-based United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime and other entities. In the world of international drug dealing, the export, import and sales of the product are only half the battle. The other half is laundering the proceeds. Vienna-based Dr. John Collins is a senior analyst at a global network which promotes strategies to fight organised crime.
So the expense of cocaine when it leaves Colombia, for example, is a fraction of what the expense of cocaine is when it gets to European street markets or wholesale markets. They serve as the connective tissue within the international commodity chain. And then, of course, that generates a huge amount of cash. And so the Kinahans then have to dispose of this cash, reinvest it, find ways to actually turn it into something that they can actually use in the mainstream economy. And that's where large-scale money laundering comes in, purchasing of assets, all these sorts of things.
Primetime understands that Gardaí brought evidence of the Kinahan Group's alleged money laundering involvement with Iran and the pro-Iran Lebanese militia Hezbollah to the attention of US authorities.
So there's a tri-border area in Latin America where Hezbollah is reportedly very involved in money laundering. And it is to do with financing terrorist activities throughout the region, but it's also around financing activities around the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and the Iranian regime.
In 2022, to much fanfare, Sean McGovern and other senior Kinahan gang members were put on the United States government's sanctions list.
Sean Gerhard McGovern, also based in Dubai, and is believed to be a close advisor to Daniel Kinahan on all criminal activities.
The convincing links that the Irish demonstrated between Hezbollah and Iran in terms of laundering funds seems to have been the thing that pushed it over the line that the US took this very seriously.
The involvement of the American authorities was really significant. It was another first in this investigation that persons from Ireland believed to be involved in organised crime were sanctioned by the US authorities.
Which shuts you out of the international financial system, and everything becomes very, very difficult thereafter, because anyone who deals with you, knowing that you're a sanctioned individual, is liable for very severe penalties. So it really, really restricts what you can do.
Ireland issued a red notice via Interpol seeking the arrest of Sean McGovern.
One of the most senior figures in the Kinahan Organised Crime Group, Sean McGovern, has been extradited from the United Arab Emirates.
It was the first time that a red notice had been issued by Ireland via Interpol. It was the first time that a person had been extradited from the UAE to Ireland.
I think Ireland needs to take a lot of credit in that the police in Ireland have shown very significant operational and strategic capacity around targeting serious organised crime. It is actually a very good international case study. If you're a serious organised criminal, you will not have safe haven within Ireland, and now we will pursue you overseas.
The entire process of negotiating the arrest of Sean McGovern, his extradition from the United Arab Emirates, and ultimately his conviction at a Dublin court also served another purpose. In effect, it was a dry run for dealing with even bigger fish.
This seems like a useful test case. You don't go for the kingpin first in case there's a legal process which trips up underway, right? If the extradition process doesn't work, if UAE court throws out the extradition agreement, if there's some problem with an Irish court, or whatever it is along the way, you want to test that.
Daniel Kinahan is currently in detention in Dubai. And later this year, it's expected he'll be extradited to Ireland, where the drugs gang his father established has been hugely weakened.
We have over 70 individuals behind bars here linked to the Kinahan Group.
And now, Sean McGovern is one of them. The evidence against him was so overwhelming that he pleaded guilty to directing the attempted murder of Hutch associate James Gately and the murder of innocent grandfather Noel Kirwan.
The complete disregard for human life and the devastation left behind is something we will carry with us forever. One day Sean McGovern will be released and get to spend the rest of his days with his family, while we'll be out here surviving in a world we never wanted to be a part of.